And so when we kind of extending past mash hopping, how and when are you hopping throughout the process? And let's not talk dry hopping right now. So we've talked about having hops in the mash, and then there was days where your IPA would have a 60-minute, a 45, a 30, a 15, a 10, a 5, and a whirlpool, right? Like we've gone through those stages. With beers like this, where do you find yourself falling as far as these hop additions after the mash?
I would say it really depends on what I want the thiol load to be. So
let's
if
start
you,
here. Let's start here. Sorry to interrupt. So if we're
no,
just going to
yeah,
start and say let's blow the top off. Okay,
yeah,
let's make as big of a thiol bomb as we can.
yeah,
What are those? What are those things? And I'm not claiming that that's going to be desirable, right?
right,
That's not what
right,
I'm saying. I
right,
always like to know, like, okay, what's the ceiling? Or at least, like, when I'm testing out something new, I definitely
yeah,
want to find the ceiling. You want to
take
you
it,
want to
yeah,
find the
take it,
point of failure, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because then
for
then
sure,
at least you have an understanding. So, like, if you're going to try to go to failure on this thing and just maximize the
yeah.
the thiol concepts, what are some of the things that you would be doing after the mash?
I would be adding as a little hop, vegetal matter to the process from there on out as I
Yeah,
possibly
man.
can.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I would make, ideally you would use some bittering oil and then whirlpool at a hop stand temperature with like salvo oil and throw phantasm in
All right,
there.
so
And
why are we talking oils right now? Because what's there seems to be a connection between, on some level, reducing the impact of, or the contribution of thiols, or the expression of thiols in these beers, and it's kind of directly linked to one thing, and what is that?
like hop vegetal matter.
Green
Is that,
matter, man. Green matter.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Isn't that so? Isn't that interesting to me? I remember when I was first going through that, stuff. And I remember I asked you a while back. I think it was just via text. Every once in a while, Chris and I will shoot each other a text about something. And hopefully I just didn't burp audibly into the microphone. But
I keep
anyways.
burping, so sorry if you hear me.
I haven't heard you burp, but I remember asking you, like, so are these styles, like, does it come across like hops, or does it come across like fruit? I remember having that question
No.
for you, and now that I'm playing with them myself, I kind of know where I sit on it. Um, but but yeah, man. So it does seem as if you want to be reducing green matter, and so this is why
Mhm.
all these advanced hop products start coming
Yeah,
into
totally.
play. Because when you look at that research from Omega, they're talking about really curtailing those things as much as you can if you're trying to go for thiol bomb.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, you think about it the other way. You if you don't want a thiol bomb, just add a little bit more hot matter. Add these things that they're saying. I believe it. Add some adjuncts to your mash.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just to dial it back. But yeah, so the oils, that would be the way to go, and I've certainly seen that here.
Which of
If you
these products
go,
have you used? Because we've talked about, we I'm jumping up to here. So, like, there's Salvo, there's Incognito, there's Spectrum. Have you played with all of those?
we've played with the salvo oil, so that's like a whirlpool edition. In theory, it's all beta acid.
Okay.
Um,
And so the
that's
impact of
been
using all beta acid would be what?
just all like flavor and aroma with no added bitterness.
Okay.
Like in theory, you could throw it in like at flame out, and that's kind of what they suggest, or at like 5 minutes, so it kind of homogenizes a little better.
Sure.
I will say with some of these oil products, just really, I don't know, read up on them and figure out the right dosage rate. They can, if you try to push it, you can taste it. It tastes like hop oil sometimes.
Like, so let's dig in on that a little bit. Do you find it to be like, is it artificial? Is it?
No, it tastes like hop oil. Like,
okay.
just
So are you talking about
resiny.
like, okay. Yeah. Do you believe, do you feel as if you could also like be pulling like, because I have like no experience with those. I have no experience with those products. Do you feel as if there's like an actual body mouthfeel, like actually a tactile difference, or no?
I think if you push it far enough, yeah, it'll be a coating thing in your palate.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I was listening to a great interview with Kelsey McNair, I believe, it was on Craft Beer and Brewing, and he was talking about making hazy IPA, and I think he just won at one of the big boy competitions for hazy, and I forget which hop product it was, but it was one of those advanced oils, and maybe it was one that gives that does lend bittering. Which is the one that lends bittering from those, Chris? Do you remember? Salvo, Incognito?
No, I think Incognito and Salvo are kind of the same concept of like, but Incognito might have alpha acid, if that's what you mean by that.
Google it, people, because I think one of them is supposed to really just be explicitly flavor and aroma, and then one also, and one has bittering capacity as well. But anyways, that's an easy enough thing to Google, so I'm not gonna.
I'm pretty sure Salvo is not supposed to bitter.
Okay. So, but he was using one of the ones that will add bitterness, and the first hop strike that his hazy saw was him running 210-degree wort into the fermenter on that hop oil, because it has to be hot in order to get it incorporated, and then he's throwing his heat X on and chilling his wort down and turning his jacket on, getting his temp and his fermenter correct, and then throwing in his yeast. But there's some wild stuff.
Why can't that happen in the kettle?
He was saying that he finds that stuff sticks all over his kettle. He feels like he's losing much of it coating the kettle.
It does.
So sure. Well, and that was what I wanted to ask. Do you find that those hop oils really do coat up the kettle quite heavily?
Yeah, I mean, typically if I'm going to use that on our big system, I request that I have time afterwards to clean, or like the next day, don't brew extra, and just clean the kettle.
Extra.
It does stick around a bit, and like at certain temperatures too, it'll change quite a bit too.
Sure. Now I was listening to something the other day, I don't know what it was, but somebody was saying that when they use those oils, they also will use at least some measure of T90 or some sort of pellet afterwards, because they'll say that they feel as if it actually pulls, whether it coats the pellets and then the pellets are taken in. They say they feel like when they use pellets after using the oil, that they have less oil sticking to their kettle afterwards. So just something to think on.
Yeah,
just something to think on. But anyhow,
cool.
But yeah, so I think, as we mentioned before, all those products are great options, especially if you're looking to maximize not only yield, efficiency for sure,
and yield,
but
and
also and also you're eliminating that green matter. So if you're looking to push limits, go high end on the thiol thing, you want to be minimizing that green matter as much as you can.
Yeah. And I will say we've also used Barthos's Spectrum, so that's like the dry hop, the oil.
Yep.
They don't have many varieties in. We've only really used Citra and Mosaic. But yeah, that's another way to incorporate, you know, further biotransformation in the fermentation process without adding, you know, and maybe this is the lead way to the next step, but yeah, dry hopping. That would be I found that it shouldn't be a replacement for a dry hop, but it's a step towards punching more thiols in via dry hop stage. Yeah.
Sure.